Hi, and welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship Uncovered, where we discuss the beauty and challenges of entrepreneurship. I'm Gabrielle Luoma, CPA and CGMA, and CEO of Mod Ventures. I will be facilitating and joining in this discussion with Jen Kelly, CEO of New Initiatives Marketing. Before we start, let me tell you a little bit about Mod Ventures. Mod Ventures is an outsourced accounting and advisory company for businesses across the United States. Our accounting team is entirely virtual and has been since 2014. Our passion is to help entrepreneurs organize, create, and predict their financial futures. We believe that strong small businesses create financial stability in their communities, and we care very much about that. So we are so excited to have you, Jen, today to talk to us and tell us about your journey in entrepreneurship. And so I am not going to introduce you. I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell us who you are and a little bit about why you started your business and why you keep on going. So welcome.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So yes, as you said, Jen Kelly, the company is called New Initiatives Marketing. We've been in business since 2009. We work with companies across Canada and the US. And our focus is on B2B and specifically in technical services, oil and gas. And what that means is helping the smaller businesses sell into the larger oil and gas companies, and then with electrical as well, helping the smaller companies sell into the larger electrical utilities. Our typical program involves a fractional chief marketing officer coming in to help you with strategy, and then a marketing team to execute that strategy. And we typically work with firms that don't yet have a marketing team in place, or they have the proverbial lone wolf that's expected to do it all that can't. So we come in and assist that way. Why do I stay in business? Well, I think it's one of those things that once the business bug bites you, you're kind of stuck for life in a good way for sure. I think it's I heard someone say that a small business or running a business is the most effective professional development program in the entire world, because every day you're faced with challenges that you're not sure how to do, you haven't approached yet. At the end of the day, you win, and then you go back and do it again. And you have periods of winning and periods of just like, how am I going to get through this? And all in all, if you have more wins than not, it keeps you wanting to go. The other reason is if you can find, quite seriously, if you can find a business problem that your team and your ideas can solve for other businesses, that's a fantastic way to help keep you going, because there's a lot of satisfaction in helping another business solve a problem that they have.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think it's all about, solving really challenging problems. And it isn't always challenging. Like, they're not big challenges for us. They're challenges for business owners. And so, they don't want to do what we do. And so they're excited about finding folks that are very capable in the arenas that they're not experts in. So it's exciting to really be a problem solver. I know we had an amazing conversation. I was like, oh my gosh, you need to come on our YouTube channel and we need to talk about this, because there are not enough conversations about the connection between the chief marketing officer role and the CFO role in companies, and how those things connect together. And so my favorite thing was, the conversations between of the chief marketing officer and cash flow. And so, I think that is the misunderstood or miscommunicated thought that is never really quite communicated in the business community. So tell me, what are your thoughts on, the chief marketing officer role in the cash flow thought process for you? Like, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, so within the marketing, I was going to say industry, but area within a corporation, within a business, generally I guess the complaint around marketing from the leadership team would be that you can't really quantify why your why your
Yeah,
campaigns
their
are
value.
worth are
Yeah,
worth all the money. And funny enough, I know for sure in technology, marketing, lovingly gets called the arts and crafts department. I mean, it's the kind of thing where if you can't show how your programs are really impacting or contributing to the sale and the sales and the financial viability of a company, then of course you look like an expense. Of course you look like the team should get laid off during hard times. But what we got talking into was about if more and quite frankly, while that is the negative perception, that's simply not true. And here's where our conversation went that was so neat. One of the roles in marketing, at least in B2B, is to bring in leads for the sales team to then warm up and convert, depending on how your situation works in your company. And so if marketing could more point to, okay, let's say, for example, there's 100 leads in that pipeline, average sale is $1,000. We've got a pipeline sitting there with a potential of this much money that could be converted to sales. Marketing brought that there. And so talk about, contributing to the bottom line. Yes, the sales are not closed yet. However, that's sales jobs to do with marketing support, sure. And again, depending on how your marketing and sales team is set up. But that could be a way that marketing and then finance can start talking much better together. And the CFO can see marketing really does contribute some dollars to this organization.
absolutely. And I think that the being able to quantify, the going back to the value of the CMO in the company, because a lot of times we'll have clients come to us, well, we have cash flow problems. Well, you have cash flow problems. Okay. So you have this amount of X amount of revenue coming in, you have X amount going out. There's only two ways that this can go, right? You have to either increase your revenue or decrease your expenses. Well, a lot of times they're like, well, I've already, cut and reduced every possible way that I could. And we start to look at the marketing area and say, well, you haven't spent any money in marketing. So how are you planning to increase revenue without any focus on marketing? And so I think it's really interesting because a CFO or controller, we can't do anything without that collaboration with either the owner, with the chief marketing officer, or a chief marketing officer in sales. It's kind of fruitless. You have to have that baseline role in the company for it all to work together. And so I love that you're, bringing that conversation to the table, and then with more financial professionals understanding, well, what does that sales pipeline look like?
Yeah, no, very
What does
true,
it look
very true.
Yeah. And so is it, do we have 3 months of runway where we have plenty of revenue coming in? Do we have 6 months? What does this look like? And I think that that is probably one of like I said, I think it's so overlooked when people are talking about their finances.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. And it's a good point you bring up about the CFO really understanding how marketing can contribute. And also, I would argue it's important for the CEO to see that as well.
Yes.
And the thing is, at least the organizations we go into, so we're hired in typically by the CEO because there isn't yet a marketing team there.
Yes.
And one thing or a recommendation I would give, if the CEO is looking to hire this kind of role, when the chief marketing officer comes in to develop the strategy, one of the questions you need to ask is, how does this marketing strategy support our company goals? And in that way, you're going to be able to understand that this, fractional chief marketing officer really does understand their role of marketing is to support the whole company, not just to be, focused on campaigns and whatnot that have no link to, is the company expanding into a new region? Are we launching a new product? Do we need to sell, 5X this year? And so if marketing knows that, that's how the marketing strategy can be really linked to the business goals. And then that's how it can be really linked to financials. And then you have, a marketing team, or at least a marketing leader, that can really contribute to that leadership conversation.
Absolutely. And it is about leadership. So, and we're generally hired by the CEO as well, the CEO or the owner, right? The founder,
Yeah.
the person that, and so they're trying to figure out how to have these fractional roles so that they can have a C-suite, right?
Yes.
And so it's interesting that it's just that leadership team then working together to come up with a strategy to essentially figure out how to really forecast out and create this business future that the CEO, their vision is
Yeah.
really. So I love how it all kind of comes together. And so our conversation and this conversation now is like on fire. People have to know about that connection and how really important that is. So thank you for, sharing my passion for the leadership team and building this relationship throughout the organizations that you work with. I love it. Um,
Great.
so one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because you've been in business for how long? How long have you?
2009.
Oh,
Yes, a long
yes.
time.
So
Long
you,
time.
yeah. And so one of the things, what are one of the things like you really did not expect by becoming a entrepreneur or
One
build?
of the things I did not expect was how in running your own business, you are 100% the salesperson. Uh, at least when you start, of course, you can expand and build on a team after you grow, but you are 100% the salesperson. No matter what it is, the skill that you are selling or that you actually want to do with your business. That was very shocking to me. I just and I was completely unprepared for it. I came from the corporate world in marketing, so entirely not prepared to sell a thing.
Right. Absolutely.
So that would be the most shocking thing. Now, if anybody's listening and wants to start their own company and is not very well versed in sales, it is a skill you can learn. Absolutely, it is, and it does not require you to be the loudest person in the room, despite what industry stereotypes will tell you. So it is entirely possible. But yeah, you got to be out there selling, and
Right.
that was shocking to me.
Yeah. Well, I saw this really corny video once, and it was um service is selling. And so if you're providing service and customer service and you care about people, that's selling. Like you're actually selling your service to them, right? So it was so corny. Oh my gosh. I will never forget that video. But you're right. I think that was probably a pretty shocking thing for me too. Um, the E-Myth, which I don't know if you've read before, but it's probably one of my favorite books.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like we go out as technicians and we're good at what we do, but we don't realize that there's other roles and things that we have to fill. So I think
Yeah.
that is a shocking thing. It's things you don't expect you have to do. Like you could be really good at what you do and not know how to sell it at all. And so I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs in that role. And so they get help. They get help with marketing. They get help with sales. They learn things like that.
It's an entirely, yeah, it is a learnable skill. It really is. And I think, I mean, I was lucky when I first started out. There was a lot of people that I knew that I ended up saying, hey, hey, I was going to say, hey, do you want some marketing? But it kind of started off pretty unpolished, right? Do you need
Yeah,
marketing help? Right. I mean,
right.
like, what do you do, right, when you're starting?
Yeah,
And there can be a little sense of disillusionment there if you have referrals coming into you, which is a beautiful thing. But what you soon realize, even though referrals are great and they're warm and usually you're the only one
yeah,
on the short list, you can't count on them, right? You can't possibly say next month I'll have three referrals coming in. So
yes,
as you start to get more mature in your business and you're like, I need X amount of cash coming in, that's when it's just like, I have to go out and drum up some sales.
yes,
So It's yeah, it's pretty important.
Yeah, definitely. You're like, I need to maybe
Hmm.
next week.
I
Or I
hope
need to
somebody
find,
knocks on my door, right?
yeah, right. Yeah, you can't just sit there and wait. So you definitely have to go out and make
Yeah,
it happen.
make it
So
happen. Yeah, it's true.
um so I know you're an avid reader. I'm into professional development
Yeah.
and I love that. I am too. In fact, I know you're gonna mention this book. But Dan Martell is the reason why we are together right now because we met on his network and on his coaching program. So anyway, what are your favorite three books? What have you learned the most from them and why are you recommending them?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's start with Dan's book. So it's Buy Back Your Time. Why it's such a good book. It is for me. It was a missing link as to how I could get some systems running better in my company. Most notably, the use of an executive assistant, and most notably, how to use the executive assistant. And what was terrifying at the beginning is that he very much suggests that your executive assistant manage, run, read, respond to your email and own your calendar.
Right?
And that can be, yeah, a bridge too far for
Yes.
for a lot of us.
Yeah.
But we, in our company, we've embraced it. And one of my fears at first was, oh, there's so much confidential information that comes in, and oh, right. And then I kind of want to laugh at myself now because we're hardly Fort Knox. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
not that we want all the information out there, but if you've got a professional with you, someone's coming in to complain about this or has a concern about this or would like to hire you for this. I mean, like, it's it's not as like scary
Right.
as I thought it was to have the help see what's actually going on in your business.
Mhm.
So that was one. Not just because of that, he's got some very I don't even want to say practical. They were mind blowing to me, but definitely accessible ways of starting to run your business, run your life, think about your business, think about your life. His whole premise of the book is buy back your time, but not your time to necessarily sit on the beach and, chill
Yeah.
out, buy back your time. So now, you're calling professionally. You have the time to go further and farther and really get after it.
Yeah.
So that was one, and it certainly like changed my professional life. The program, meeting you, meeting some of the others in the group,
Yeah.
it's just been fantastic and very intimidating too. It pushes you out of your comfort zone daily, right? So,
Yes.
my
Kick your
goodness,
butt. I said it kicks my butt. Like I get
yeah.
convicted. It's like going to church. Like, oh man, that was tough preaching right
No,
there.
no kidding. But you know what the interesting thing is? I mean, if anybody walks the walk,
Yeah.
like it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
So,
mind blowing. When did you start really making commitment to a lot of the things that he um focuses on, like the 5 daily non-negotiables?
um,
That it's mind blowing.
yeah, it is. It is
Mhm.
uncomfortable and mind-blowing.
Yes.
But it's interesting though. I mean, he does keep talking about, and then there's a lot of the personal development conversation around I guess your discipline has to be dialed in enough. So when you're not in the mood, when it's not a good day, when everything's falling around you, you still are able to almost on autopilot, if you'll take it in the good way, get the things done that need to be done.
Yeah.
Even when you don't feel like it, right?
Yeah.
So
And I think as business owners, we can really not perform if we don't want to. Really, you can get comfortable and not perform if
sure.
you want to. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think what it's done for me is it's increased my confidence in myself because I can do hard things. And I think that that's what was needed at the time. So I love it. I think it's been good. Yeah, really good.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
But
and
well, it's been great to meet you. So that's another great
yeah,
thing.
yeah, exactly. So we meeting some fabulous people. So
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
what other one?
I have two more for you. This one is called A Shoe Dog. So it's the story of Phil Knight, who started Nike. And it's the story from day one up to, I believe it's up to the day they went public. So this is just the early 80s, I believe it is. So it's the story of how Nike started. So whatever you think about Nike today, it is a fantastic book on, I would say, perseverance,
Wow.
because he takes you through, how it started, how it was going, how there was a setback, how we get, all these problems, how he had to take a job, in an accounting firm and during the day to keep things going at night. And just, I mean, if you think you're having a hard time in your business, read that book and be like, holy cow, I'm right on track with all
Yeah.
my problems running this business. So it was very, what's the word? Either comforting or a little bit of, I felt a little bit of camaraderie reading that book, going, okay, if he did all this and just, kept going, I mean, I can keep going
Yeah.
in my business. So I found it very, yeah, I don't know if the word is inspiring, but definitely one I think about when I'm having, like, I feel like, oh my God, the mountain's too big. I'm like, keep going, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I love that. I think we need that.
Well, it's very interesting because it's not a glamorous book at all. And the wins he had, he talked about them, but he mostly go into detail about, the problems or how they were barely keeping it together at certain stages. And it's just refreshing to see that sometimes your own show is being held together by duct tape and you're just like, is this right? And you're like, well, Nike did it. So we just keep going.
Right.
So
Right. And
yeah. So
that's a story of a growing company is that, you're just tackling things as you're scaling and trying to figure out what's next. That's
yeah.
really
Yeah. So
that's the
it was
truth.
really neat. And then the last one is one that's been around. I don't know if it's a century or yeah, it's a century old yet, but it's definitely, 50, maybe 75 years old. It's the Think and Grow Rich. And
Yeah.
there's just so much practical information in there about changing your attitude and sort of getting after. I mean, they don't call it the daily five like Dan does, but getting after, a certain amount of things every day in order to really go for your goals. So I think there's a reason why it's lasted, this long,
Yes.
but it's a real classic and really
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. I usually buy that book for people who, when they graduate high school or college or whatever, because I feel
Yeah.
like that's like, it really is all about what you're thinking. It's how you manage you as, your person, your head,
Yeah.
your habits, all of those things. So I think it's a great book. I haven't read it in a long time, but maybe I will now that you've mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, they always say, and I don't know if you reread books or not, but I mean, you are a different person the next time you come back and read it, right? You've had
Yeah.
more experience. Sometimes you pick up things that you like, I didn't know this chapter was in there. It didn't resonate before when I read it. So it would probably
Yeah.
be probably a classic to return to for sure.
Yes, for sure. I love that. All right. So I was thinking about other questions that I wanted to ask you because I feel like, yeah, you have a ton of experience. Um, so what do you think are the most important lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur? Besides the sales part, like you've got to be a salesperson, you've got to, you know, that's pretty mind-blowing in itself. But what are some of the other, important lessons you've learned?
The other lessons. So yeah, it's funny. The sales, it's kind of mind blowing and it's kind of disguised because I mean
Yeah.
now, yeah, now it's just like your best kept thing you didn't know you were walking into.
Right, exactly.
Congratulations, you're a neat salesperson now. Okay, I've got them here. I prepared a little bit here for so some of the important lessons. So I would say there's three. So the no doesn't always mean no. And what I mean by that is oftentimes as we're selling in a program and whatnot, sometimes the first answer is no, or you get the answer of no to a budget, or you see some ways to help your client more with different programs. And, the first answer is a no. Oftentimes that no can either be turned into a yes or can be turned into, okay, how can we compromise? Perhaps not in the very same conversation, but not to let the no stop you. And then this is probably where the sales comes in as well. So diplomatically, can you figure out what the resistance is and how to turn that no around? But a no definitely doesn't mean no. The second important lesson is particularly, well, for large businesses too, but particularly small businesses are affected by this. You have to keep on top of your invoicing. And what I mean by that is make sure those invoices get paid. Because it's too easy for certain ones to get delinquent. And then sometimes, funny enough, you don't get paid.
Yep.
So you got to keep on top of it. You really do. And it can be uncomfortable chasing or reminding people for money. But I think this is where you have to really think about, we had a deal, work done in exchange for this other type of work called money. And we did our deal. So we want, we want your side of the deal to come and close as well.
Yeah.
But that's key for sure. And then the last one is within business, I found I was exposed to many more personality types, many more, obviously, people with different skill sets than I was in my corporate roles. And because of that, there can be many more opportunities to do great projects and have people join your team that are, fascinating and can really contribute to what you're trying to do. And there may be different personality types and whatnot. But the thing is, it's really important. A really important lesson is before you either hire or decide to go into business with another company or have them on as a vendor or get into any kind of business collaboration would be to do a test project, meaning that it is, a real thing, a real body of work. It is paid. It is relatively short term. Think, 30 days at the most. But that really does give you a chance to see, how are we working together? How do we respect deadlines? How do we communicate? How do we interpret what the job entails? And it really gives you a good idea of, is this person or this firm worth working with or not? Or, there always is a little bit of, in project management, you call it the storming phase. When groups get together or two people get together, there's a phase of miscommunication, and they're just trying to sort out their communication style, and that may happen during the test project, and that doesn't mean that all is gone,
Right.
but a real way to see what's it like to work together.
Mhm.
And then at the end of the test project, it's two-sided. They can decide as well as you can decide, but that would be a really good lesson to have those happen.
Yeah. I love that idea. We had just started doing assessments, like true assessments, like paid for assessments. And so where you can come or we come in and there's a set of deliverables that's going to happen, and essentially it's like a consulting job, right? You're going to go in and consult, you're going to take a look at their systems, you're going to see what's all there, and then create a plan. And then, here's what's going to cost based on whichever level you choose to work with us at. And so that assessment really is meant to be like, we can work with you and really try each other out and see if we agree with each other's philosophy and we're collaborative, and we're not having to, number one, we also don't have to chase our business owners around and try to get information, because we've all, we've been that client. I will live up to that.
I'll admit too.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We've all been there where, someone's had to chase us around to get information from us. And but we kind of try out the business relationship before we actually have a full blown, because when you're doing
Yeah.
fractional and you're outsourcing service, and I'm sure you have the same experiences, you go through the sales process and it's beautiful. There's unicorns and roses. The client's really happy. And then you mentioned the storm, and that's when you really start to work with each other and you're not sure how it's going to work. And you have to manage the personalities and manage how you deliver information. You have to communicate. You have to do what you said you're going to do. And really get on the same page. And that I think it's the same thing as when you get an employee. It absolutely is the same thing, but it's at a fractional, it's different. You're responsible for certain tasks. And so it takes time to build that relationship over time. And so anyway, that I felt like our assessments has really helped with determining those relationships ahead of time and really, kind of test each other out before we get started. So, um, you know, I think when you're dealing with people's numbers, that's probably one of the scariest things for people.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good
Yeah.
place to begin, do an assessment and then get your feet wet with somebody and see if it makes sense to work with them. So, and I love the idea of doing test projects with marketing or, maybe a sales process or something like that. But um, yeah. So I think
Yeah. You can see how they are. How long are your assessments?
usually the assessment really only takes like 2 to 3 weeks to do.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Great.
and so, it's a matter of just scraping, financial data. And then we give them a report showing them like, this is what we see. This is what we think we need to fix. Here's the core services that we're going to do, but here's the emphasis on additional projects that need to be done in order to make the original services work, the base services work. So it's been, a bit of a trial and error and see how it actually works. But the assessments that I've been doing have been pretty good. So um
Good.
the clients are like, wow, you brought a lot more than I thought.
Oh, that's great.
So that's always nice because you can kind of wow them in the beginning and then they're like, oh yeah, you really do know what you're talking about. Because that's what it
It's
is
true.
it's
Yeah.
gaining trust, right?
That's the thing. That's the thing. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they
It really
they want
is.
to know that you understand their situation better than they do.
Yeah.
That's what they want to know,
100%.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So, and that's from both of us, right? And that's the sales process.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Better than they do. And please fix my problems.
Hmm.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, please
Absolutely.
fix this. I don't know how to do it. I
Yeah,
can
don't
see
know how
the
to do it.
problem.
And then, yeah, and then some of it is they don't know what they don't know. Fair enough. It's not their skill set. So there's always a component of educating. So you want to
Yes.
always empower them to be like, well, in our case, here's how marketing can be much more effective than just logos, da, 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 right? Always showing how this discipline can add value. Same with yours, right? Having
Yes.
okay, to a lot of people, numbers are scary,
Yes.
so okay, how do we calm down and like show that money is a tool and here's how it can really empower you to make better decisions. And
Yes.
yeah, just kind of handhold until they're running ahead of you giving you ideas.
Yes, exactly. Well, what about this? Wait,
That's
wait a
right,
minute.
that's right.
And that happens, that happens as they become more educated. It's great when you're working with a very motivated, business owner because they're thinking about scaling and how to, skill their team and their systems and process. So, you're really like then it kind of opens up the floodgates of what you can do because you realize how creative and how excited they are about that. So that's the best part of what we do is the education part, but then the light bulbs come on and it's so
Yeah.
fun, when
Yeah.
they to
But
do.
then that's what's so interesting about business in general, because it can be so creative.
Mhm.
Once you get some things in place and new ideas and how can we make this work, and okay, if we get the financing here, we could actually do this, right? So it can be
Yes.
great.
Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy that a lot. Um, so Jen, Before we close, I want to give everybody an opportunity to search you out and if they're looking for a CMO, see if they can, hit you up and find
Sure.
you. So where can they find you on the World Wide Web?
Okay. So the company name is New Initiatives Marketing. I know when I have a new company, I should have a shorter name, but that's the name of the company, and it's fitting because we're always working with companies who have, a new
Yeah,
initiative being getting the marketing going. So it is fitting. So that's
I love
there's
it.
a method to the long name. So newinitiativesmarketing.com is our website. Same thing on LinkedIn. I am Jennifer Kelly on LinkedIn. There's probably about 500 of us, but if you search for New Initiatives Marketing, you should find me there. On Instagram at Jen Kelly Jen, so that's one N, so JenKellyJen, and those would be the best places to get in touch with me, and we can go from there. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, definitely follow Jen on Instagram. I'm watching her as she's, growing in her videoing and, giving out information and what she's doing on a day-to-day basis. It's nice to get to know someone before you reach out to them. And so it does add a little more of that trust and credibility that they're for real. So definitely reach out to Jen and again, thank you so much for being on the show today. Um, and subscribers or viewers, if you would like to get more of this type of content, please go ahead and subscribe. You'll be notified when a new video comes out. Usually we post them every other Wednesday. And we have a lot of great folks coming on board over the next year, actually, putting out new videos on a bi-weekly basis. And yeah, so you guys have a great week. We will see you next time. And thanks again, Jen. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity.